George Janko surviving Logan Paul.
It's now been almost 9 months since George Janko left the Impulsive podcast. As you all probably know by now, things went south when he walked out of the Bobby Lee podcast, and they got even worse when Logan spent an entire episode criticizing him and his religion. After that, things were never the same.
That episode, whenever he was criticizing his religion and shit, I was like, damn, bro. Like, I feel like at some point, they probably should have just had this conversation off cam, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? But, I mean, he believes what he believes, and then George believes what he believes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either side, but, like, I just feel like, Logan's point of view, attacking him for his shit was, like, kind of messed up, in my opinion. But
And it felt like George's days on Impulsive were
numbered. I'll see you,
and just a few months later, he disappeared from the podcast. At the time, people had a lot of questions about where he was, but there weren't many answers. Logan, Mike, and George were all very secretive about it, carrying on as if nothing had happened. But as the weeks went on, they started addressing the situation, and it became clear things didn't end amicably. George would like comments on his channel shading Logan and Impulsive, and make jokes on his podcast about how poor
he was like, I like how whenever there's like beef or anything going on the internet, or like people are trying to get answers about a certain thing, they'll look at the person, they'll probably look at people's likes and see the type of tweets and comments that they're liking, and they'll be like, okay, he's speaking to us through the likes. Oh my gosh, bro, that's like one of the funniest things ever. Whenever people be like, oh my gosh, look at the tweet that he liked. Oh my god. Obviously, this is like exactly what he believes because he liked this tweet. Like, it's just funny to me.
Poorly he was treated, and Logan and Mike would make sly digs that were quite clearly about George.
I obviously have been a Christian my entire life. I don't talk about it very much on this channel because I don't feel the need to always be talking about it.
I love this outlet. I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like...
A day after this episode of Impulsive was released, George made a tweet saying, "To the Impulsive fans, I'm so sorry. I can't speak about things. Not my choice. I do love you guys, and for those of you sending me the clip of them talking shit, it's all love. I've already moved on from that toxic environment." People assumed the reason George couldn't go into detail about it was because he was legally bound from doing so.
Yeah.
And he ended up confirming this.
I was about to say, I figured it was like some legal thing, probably, that he had like signed, like, oh, you can't get off the podcast and then badmouth the podcast. Because I'm pretty sure that that's probably what happened with because wasn't there some dudes on like Joe Budden's podcast that like did the same thing? They started pooping all over the Joe Budden podcast like after they got off of it or something like that. I forgot like exactly what had happened, but like they started like a whole other podcast after they got off, right?
This a couple months later in a podcast with Howie Mandel.
They very much made it clear that I'm not allowed to speak up about things. So I can't even...
Legally?
Yeah.
Was this I didn't know that you guys were in a legal...
Well, he likes to tend to argue with me. And so he argues with me on the podcast and about things. And I think I said, okay, then how about we discuss this, what you've guys done. Let's talk about this. And he goes, yeah, do it. And then I go, okay. And so I tweeted out, I wasn't going to talk out of respect for the man.
So,
and then his attorneys hit me up and said, hey, let me remind you about the stuff you've signed.
He went on to explain that the Bobby Lee episode was cut to make him look bad, and that the drama that came from it ruined him.
That Bobby Lee episode was edited, and they made me look like I wasn't a comedian that can't take a joke, even though every episode they make jokes on. And the reason I walked away was definitely not put in there.
Did it make for a better show the way it was cut?
That made me miserable, dude. That put me through a fucking terrible time.
Do you think you can ever be friends again without doing the show?
If they change their hearts, I'm not proud to call them friends.
Apparently, George leaving Impulsive was his decision. Logan and Mike actually offered to take him back shortly after he left, but he said no. This says a lot because at the time, George's podcast was only just getting started, so giving up a secure position on one of the biggest podcasts on YouTube was a massive risk, particularly because he has a whole team to look after, including his sister who left her job to work with him, and his girlfriend who co-hosts his podcast. But even with all that responsibility, he decided to leave Impulsive behind. This video is brought to you by MyBookie.
All right, bro. Come on, bro. We need to come on, bro. We talking about George here, bro. What are we? Come on, bro.
It
Lock in.
became clear that George's podcast had legs. He'd built enough connections during his time in Logan's circle to have a steady stream of popular guests, and he was managing to attract some big names that hadn't even appeared on Impulsive. Many of his guests would ask about what happened between him, Logan, and Mike, and bit by bit, he would give away more details. On one episode with Gideon, who's also a devout Christian.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say, the Gideon episode, I look, you gotta watch this. Bro. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I recently, during my break, I started getting into the Flagrant podcast with, Andrew Schultz. Dude, that's a good podcast, bro. They be yapping about a lot of stuff, but, like, that's the whole point of podcasts. You just yap. And it's just him and his homies, and they just be yapping and everything, and then they'll have, like, guests on. I watched the Mr. Beast one first, and then I watched the Gideon one. And, like, dude, this is a pretty solid podcast. And I like the way Gideon, like, talks about certain things. Like, he'll talk about, like, his range is actually a lot wider than I didn't even know what, like, Gideon would talk about, right? And he's, like, a history buff. So is Mr. Beast. And they're both, like, really, like, deep into history and, like, you know, like, all that type of stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay. Would have never guessed it. And, you know, I kind of just, like, see things here every now and then. I'm just like, oh, wow. All right, cool. Like, yo, Virgil, what's up? What's up? Yeah, I'm back.
George revealed that he actually tried to stop Logan from posting the podcast where he trashed Christianity.
I know Logan behind closed doors. I know he has very terrible qualities. But I also know he's a very good man, too. He has a good heart. He does good things. So when I saw him do this, I begged him not to post it. Not because of me. I knew I was going to be like, oh, this is great. This is going to make me look amazing.
Yeah.
But I knew it was going to hurt my friend's image, like a really bad way. So I begged him 3 times.
You know, lay down my craft? I'm going to lay down my craft after, get a couple videos out of the way, and then, how about Devil May Cry 3, because that's the first one, right?
Sometimes people got to make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
And maybe what he's going through now is his relationship with God, and I just pray that him and his future
so probably like in an hour
protected and they find
on this
God
stream
instead of trying to be God.
At this point, we'd heard a lot more about what happened from George's perspective than from Logan or Mike's. But in October 2023, Mike appeared on the No Jumper podcast where he explained things from his side.
Yeah. All right, so what happened?
I didn't know this.
I gotta ask that because that's what the people want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to say he was like almost too pure for the show, but like he would just get like abused by certain guests, and it was kind of like fucked. Cause you gotta understand. And
was it the Shaq episode or Bobby Lee?
Bobby, like all like you gotta understand it, and I think a part of that was based on like seating and also like the fact that he you know, me and Logan are such big personalities, so by way of him not being able to like vocalize, he kind of like perceivably assumed the role of like the beta, which he wasn't. Yeah. But like guests would, when they would get like kind of uncomfortable or whatever with conversation, they would turn and kind of pick on him.
This was the first time Mike spoke about what happened in this much detail. He went on to say some kind words about George and congratulate him on the success of his podcast.
George is potentially one of the purest, you know, most grounded, conservative, family-oriented, loving people in the world. Like just a overall sweetheart. By the way, like, kudos to him. He's got his own show now. It's going great. He's had great guests on. He's been able to do something more aligned with his purpose in life.
A couple weeks after this podcast went out, Mike chopped up some of the nice things he said about George and uploaded it as a clip to TikTok. George saw this and posted an angry response on Twitter. Mike, could you please refrain from implying that we're friends when we're not? If you're interested, you're welcome to come on and discuss the truth. I'm just not into the fake stuff.
Damn. Okay, that's crazy. No one turns into an electric guitar you use as a weapon. That sounds like, what's it called? What's that game called? Dead Rising?
Come on, George meant come on his podcast.
That reminds me of that.
Mike responded to this on Jeff FM saying he'd be happy to, but it still hasn't happened. It's clear there's still some bad blood between them, and who knows if it'll ever get resolved.
I'm about to say, at this point, they just need to talk it out. Like, you know what I mean? I thought Mike was the good guy in the situation. Well, not a good guy, but like the middle ground. Like Mike was like middle, And then, like, Logan was the bad guy in the situation, George was the good guy, and then Mike was just, like, somewhere in the middle, right?
On
That's what I
December
thought.
7th, 2023,
guess I don't know
George
nothing,
dropped
man.
what almost instantly became his biggest podcast ever,
Andrew Tate?
the interview with Andrew Tate. He
Type
flew
shit?
all the way to Romania to sit down with Andrew, and the episode didn't disappoint. They spoke about everything from monogamy to religion to depression, and George brought out a side of Tate we
This
don't
sounds like
often
a-
see in his podcast.
I was gonna say, this sounds like a good episode, bro. I'm like, I guess I'm maybe in the minority of people who don't, like, see Andrew Tate and just immediately think, like, this weird misogynist, like, asshole. I'm just like, I mean, bro, like, I feel like he was speaking facts about a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, his little clips and shit that went viral over him, like, women shouldn't be able to drive because 9 times out of 10, if you see a car accident, it's a woman involved. Like, I mean, bro, like, that nigga's trolling most of the time, bro. Like, you don't actually, like, you look at what he says and you kind of, like, see, like, the meaning on why he said it like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just his delivery and stuff. He's fucking hilarious, bro. But I don't know. He's an interesting character, and I'll definitely be open to watch listening to George's podcast. His episode with Gideon and this one so far are, like, on my list. Interesting. I just like hearing those types of conversations to see, like, other people's point of views on things. I don't be like, I mean, obviously I don't have a whole lot of time to listen to podcasts all day every day, but oh, dude, and I gotta finish Gen V, chat. Oh my god, bro, I got 3 more episodes left. I finished that. I finished Jujutsu Kaisen. I finished Demon Slayer, dude. I caught up on all my shit that I was supposed to catch up on, and I got super sick, so there was a lot of stuff I couldn't do. So we need to make a list on, you know, we'll discuss all that later. Never mind.
I actually respect, and you give me a lot to think about. And without being arrogant, at my echelon.
Has Tate always had facial hair? Or no? Tate's never had facial hair, right? Hold on. Andrew Tate. Oh, he has. No, he definitely has. Because, like, this is what I was thinking about, though. Yeah, this is... Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, this is, like, some regular... Because this is not, like, normal for me. So when I seen him like that, I was like, what the fuck? Like, kind of caught me off guard, that's all.
With somebody and they say something that makes me think. But you've given me something to think about, and I genuinely, I'm going to think about it.
In just a day, the podcast racked up millions of views on YouTube, and as of
Nice.
December 24th, it's sitting on over 9 million views. To put this into perspective, this means in just the 17 days it's been out, the podcast has racked up more views than 403 out of 408 Impulsive episodes. And I'd say there's a chance it eventually reaches more views than Impulsive's most viewed episode ever. George has since released part 2 of the podcast, which is also doing really well. And
Part 2? What you mean part 2? Nah, bro, you uploaded a podcast and it was a part 1 and part 2, gang? Nah, George is eating good, I ain't gonna lie.
his channel has grown by over 300,000 subscribers.
George is eating good.
This is obviously huge for him, and the cherry on the cake is the amount of praise he's been getting. Man, in the years I've watched your content, I've always been so impressed with the way you can navigate any conversation with any person. You're a great speaker. This was a brilliant example of that. Glad to see the show.
Bro, I want to go on a podcast run, chat. I want to go on a podcast run, bro. Like I'm talking like me going on a bunch of podcasts just to kind of see just to see it out first. And then me getting my own podcast where I go to the guests. You know, and the set varies. But the only constant is me on the screen. And then like me, 2 mics, and that's it. Like us, and it's just us, bro. Like I'm just chatting it up with a bunch of people, bro. That would be so fire, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh, I want to listen to Lil Yachty's podcast too with J. Cole. But nah, bro. Bro. I want to go on a podcast run so bad, bro. Oh my gosh, that's like on my list of things, bro. I don't know if I have it like on my like list. I have to write that down, bro. My podcast run, dude. Like after I get to a certain point though, because obviously Ku wants to interview me right now, you know. But when I get to that point, bro, I just want to be like, yo, hey, I want to have you on the pod. Yes, 100% yes, bro. I'm on the podcast. I don't care how many times I gotta tell my story. I'll tell it, bro. Dog. Oh, I want to go on a podcast run so bad, bro.
Show is doing so well. I remember when Logan Paul.
I just feel like podcasts are just so like cool. Like, just going on a podcast and just literally yapping for, like, 2 hours, bruh. Just chatting about absolutely nothing, bruh. easy, bro. And I get off the podcast, forget everything I talked about, and then I can rewatch it later on. Like, it's genius, bro.
Mocked George for starting his own podcast. Nothing is better than a good underdog story. Been following since episode 1. So proud of you, George.
I think
the
I'm
best
subbed.
career decision George made was leaving Impulsive. I'm so happy to see this podcast doing so well. Great conversation skills. Dude is seriously talented. The same week George released the tape podcast, Impulsive released a podcast which bombed. It was with a 13-year-old girl, and the episode got just 140k views in its
Famous 13-year-old. Jazzy. Oh, this is that jit that yeah, I don't know, bro. What? I ain't gonna lie. I would probably watch this podcast just because I just want to see how did this jit just start, like, getting famous, like getting all these famous people on her little interview for TikTok. I think she'd be doing TikTok. I don't know, bro. This little jit is, bro. She had like a J. Cole interview, Nicki Minaj. Yeah, bro. I think Shaq, bro. Crazy. I just be seeing like clips of her clips. I've never actually seen her own page or anything like that. I just be seeing clips online. But yeah, that's wild, bro. I be forgetting that she exists sometimes though. Dang. That is crazy though. That is crazy. Maybe like his audience though for Impulsive, I don't know. I feel like it'd be so vast at this point though, it wouldn't really matter like who he has on. It would just be like an instant meal at the very least. Huh, that's interesting though.
its first 11 days. Viewership for Impulsive has been down as a whole, and I couldn't help but notice how the tides have turned given it was just a few months ago that Logan was making fun of George's podcast viewership. What's more, the vibe between Logan and Mike has been really off recently, and it turns out they're nowhere near as close as they used to be.
Mike's really sad that you guys haven't been hanging out.
Oh.
You're sad we aren't friends anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I called manager Jeff about it the other day. I'm gonna be upfront, bro. You don't talk. We don't talk anymore. This show was built around friendship. The vibe on this show.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's one of the things I'm afraid of, bro. Like, because I want to start a podcast with the homies, right? I want to have a podcast with the homies. Not that I would want one with them and then one by myself. I think I would have infinitely more fun doing a podcast with the homies, and then we just have guests on there along with us. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I'm talking like the homies is in like me, JG, and Lil, right? I mean, we can get other people on board too, like some of the other friends and stuff too. But like, this is just originally our idea, right? We get the podcast. We were really gonna start it this year, 100%. We were gonna start it this year, this summer. But now we're all like separated still. So I think it will be a lot better, maybe in like a couple years after we're all like, you know, getting our money and stuff like that individually. Then we can all come together and then create a podcast, because I think that'll be even better now because we'll have all these different experiences to put together in the podcast. Dude, oh my god! Even if we have to do a podcast on Discord, bro, I think that would even be fine. Dude, like, it's just, I really think that we could make that happen, bro. Get some guests on and stuff. It'd be a lot easier to get guests on too if we're doing it on Discord. So like, bruh, dude, it'd be fire, bro.
The demeanor of this show was built around our shared stories together and the friendship that we.
Oh yeah, what I was about to say. I'm sorry, I just yapped. I would just want to get my I like this shirt. I would be afraid that we only talk to each other whenever we're talking on the podcast. That's what I would be afraid of. I'd be afraid of, like, we're not friends unless we're on the pod, you know? Of course, in my head, I can't see that happening, but, like, when after a while, you're like, okay, we're talking and stuff, but we're talking without a camera. Let's put a camera on so we can talk about this and, you know what I'm saying, monetize it. You know, like, that's a mindset that I wish I'd never have, but, you know, this happens all the time. So, like, it's just, you know, that kind of thing. That kind of thing is what scares me.
We just haven't been seeing each other as much. It's. I think that might be part of the issue. I think that might be part of the problem.
When you consider all of this and the declining viewership Impulsive has had for a while now, George getting out when he did seems like a pretty good decision.
Look, bro. The day that Mike separates from Logan and then Impulsive is literally just Logan and a guest every time, that'd be an interesting reality to see. Maybe Mike starts his own podcast. Maybe Mike just does nothing, right? And then Mike goes on George's podcast and then they hash things out, maybe. I don't know. That would be interesting, bruh. That would be interesting to see. Like, this build-up has been happening for a while, bro. That and the Logan Paul and Jake Paul boxing match. That is inevitable at this point. Those are two things that, like, in internet history, like, I am just waiting to happen. Because those are two, like, oh my gosh. At least regarding Logan Paul, like, those are two things that I'm just like, yes, we need this.
Now, of course, the success of one interview isn't enough to say George is now big time, especially since a lot of his other podcasts struggled to break 100K. But this is just the first season of his show, and he's already managed to get
Wait, what do you mean first season? What does that mean?
some incredible guests. So who knows what the future holds? If we take a look at where he was at the start of this year, being treated like a third wheel and disrespected by guests, being mocked for walking out on the Bobby Lee podcast, and having heated arguments with his co-host and boss, I think we can all agree he's come a long way. He took a leap of faith in pursuing his own podcast.
Okay, so Logan Paul KSI fight review and watching God work. Hannah Stocking doing some wishes. Theo Vaughn's podcast is really good too. I was listening to his stuff earlier in like 2023. I got to get back on that too. I got to get back in my podcast bag in general.
And it's nice to see it working out for him. You can really see just how much happier he is now than his days on Impulsive.
Right now, it's like, man, and I know this sounds crazy, but like I'm in the most happiest place I've ever been in my life. It felt like before I was hanging on to God and I was like losing my grip. And now it's like God's holding on to me and it's impossible for me to leave. It's just like I'm here and I'm locked in and I'm confident about where I'm at. And now it's like,
great,
even
bro.
if the devil took everything away from me,
That's
I'll
great,
just have a
bro.
smile on my face. Like, you have nothing on me. I found my true happiness.
Yeah.
And my happiness is sitting in the presence of God. And there will be nothing that could ever...
Oh. Was this the podcast before Gideon, like, went all in too?
steal me away from him now. That's truly how I feel.
That's fire. That's fire. That was a crazy awkward handshake. That's fire though. That's fire, bro. That's fire. Amazing how even though Logan scammed millions of dollars from his viewers, he's still being watched and praised. I mean, yeah, he scammed millions of dollars. Yeah, that is true. But at the same time, he's portrayed in a completely different light, at least on WWE and like other programming and stuff. So like, it looks like he's, you know what I'm saying? And then like he was kind of portrayed as like the hero in the Dylan Dennis fight, even though just because of how hard Dylan was going on him, then he was shown as the hero that way. So, you know, it's kind of, you know what I'm saying? And then, like there's a lot of variables that go into Logan and why people are still like supporting him and stuff like that. There's a lot of variables, bro. So it's not as one dimensional as a lot of people think. But Julius their heart. I knew this guy was being genuine. I'm Team George. Nah, facts, bro. We're Team George around here, bro. We're Team George, bro. Team George. This was an excellent video. Tell us more. I like your style, bro. You got a new sub out of me, bro. I like that. Keep that up, boy.